Carter. It's a team from Toronto, Canada. We, the North, are now we, the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here back with the Raptors Nation podcast. The Toronto Raptors are in the middle of free agency, which has been a quiet free agency so far for the team. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about where things stand for the Raptors right now. We're going to be talking about Bruce Brown, and then we have a Sasha Vezenkov update. It's been a little weird situation playing out with Sasha. We'll get to more on that a little later on. Before we dive right into today's podcast, do me a solid, everybody. Drop a like on the video. It helps it a ton. Subscribe to the channel for more pods just like this. And also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, iTunes, or Spotify. It would be greatly appreciated. So we are going to start with the Raptors free agency, and it's been quiet. It's been very quiet, which is not surprising because we knew coming in that this offseason wasn't going to be a major one for the Raptors. They did all of their heavy lifting during the season, making the big trades, really structuring their team. This offseason was going to be about extending Scottie Barnes, getting that out of the way, locking up Emmanuel quickly, and then also putting the pieces in place for what should be a developmental-based year with the Raptors having the draft that they did. They made the trade, bringing in Mitchell, Vezenkov, and really you look at the roster, it appears to be set because you look at the Raptors, they locked up Scottie Barnes to that 5-year contract extension. Barnes is going to be earning $225 million, and it would become the supermax if he makes All-NBA, All-Defensive Team, or earns MVP honors. Then, of course, the Raptors locked up Emmanuel quickly to a 5-year, $175 million deal, so the Raptors have their point guard of the future. Then the Raptors elected to pick up Bruce Brown's $23 million team option. Again, not surprising, because all arrows were pointing to the Raptors picking up that option and then trading Brown right after, but the trade part hasn't come in yet. And then the Raptors recently brought back veteran Garrett Temple to a 1-year deal. In the meantime, the Raptors have locked up their rookies. It was announced today that the Raptors have signed Jonathan Mobo to a 3-year, $6.11 million deal. And then they have also signed Jamal Shed. He's agreed to a 3-year, $6.11 million rookie contract. So the Raptors making sure that their rookies are, of course, locked up. And then Josh Lewenberg did say that Ulrich Chomsky will eventually be signed to a 2-way deal. And all 3 of the Raptors rookies, plus, of course, first rounder Jacoby Walter, will be in Summer League. So that's exciting as Summer League is set to begin next week. So the Raptors, you're looking at this team right now, guys. They have 15 players on guaranteed deals for next year. And this is how things are looking in Toronto as of right now. So, at that point guard position, you got Emmanuel Quickly, who they just locked up. Davion Mitchell slated in as the backup. Jamal Shed, DJ Carden, he's on a 2-way deal. Javon Freeman Liberty is on a non-guaranteed. He's still on the Raptors books. Shooting guard, you're looking at Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, and Bruce Brown is obviously still on the roster. Small forward, RJ Barrett, Okai Abaji, Garrett Temple. Power forward, Scottie Barnes, Vezenkov, Chris Boucher, Jonathan Mobo. And then center, you got Jakob Poeltl, Kelly Olynyk, Braden Carlson, who's on a 2-way. And then Ulrich Chomsky, who's on a 2-way deal. So basically, that's how things look for the Raptors. And there's still the Gary Trent Jr. situation going on. I'm surprised a team hasn't picked up Gary Trent Jr. It's been kind of weird where, these guys that would probably have gotten more money in the past, they're kind of still on the market waiting for a deal. Now it looks like he's going to end up getting less than what he just made. So you look at Gary Trent Jr.'s situation with the Raptors. I mean, it was reported by Michael Grange of Sportsnet that there is real doubt that Trent Jr. will even be offered a deal for the mid-level exception, which is wild to think because Gary Trent Jr., he still provides a skill set that would be valuable for many teams, especially contending teams. So the fact that Gary Trent Jr.'s stock is kind of fallen as it has, the Raptors wouldn't even have to necessarily offer Trent Jr. the full non-taxpayer mid-level exception to re-sign him. However, even if Trent Jr. is willing to take a pay cut, I still think the Raptors are ready to move on from him. You kind of look at the Raptors guard room all of a sudden. There's a lot of guards. And I feel like if you bring back Gary Trent Jr., you're kind of taking away from Jacoby Walter, who the Raptors just drafted in hopes of replacing Gary Trent Jr., a Grady Dick. He's going to be stepping into his second season. Obviously, Bruce Brown's still on the roster. So, if he doesn't get traded, he's going to take up a roster spot. So you kind of bring in Gary Trent Jr. back in the mix. You have this clutter of guards all of a sudden. So, yeah, I think regardless, I don't see the Raptors bringing back Trent Jr. Another interesting scenario is Bruce Brown. Are we going to get a Bruce Brown trade? We're going to talk about Bruce Brown more in his market in just a moment here, but a trade obviously hasn't happened yet. It's important to note they don't necessarily need to trade Brown this offseason because he's an expiring contract. They could very well hold on to him, keep him on the roster, and then look to trade him at the trade deadline. So that's also a possibility. The Raptors have been trying to trade Brown, it seems, since they acquired him in the Pascal Siakam trade in January, unable to get a deal that they want for him. It was believed that the Raptors were looking for a first-round pick. It looks like teams don't want to surrender that pick, so the Raptors could just prolong this, hold on to Brown. They could hope he has a good start to the season, increase that trade value, and then again, flip him at the trade deadline. And then another guy in all of this is Chris Boucher. He's still on the roster, and he's still on the final year of his deal. It's going to be a $10.8 million expiring contract. Now, if you thought Bruce Brown doesn't have much of a trade market right now, I would say Chris Boucher's trade market is non-existent. Don't really see the Raptors getting much back for him. It could even be a situation where the Raptors just flat out buy him out. But again, Boucher is still on the roster. He's on his expiring contract. And right now it does look like a very bad situation for the Raptors because Boucher, we know he's out of the rotation and he is eating up $10.8 million. So that's another guy who is going to be on this team, but doesn't have a place on this team long term. It's only a matter of time until both Boucher and the Raptors part ways. So could the Raptors try to move him? It'll be tough, especially if they're having trouble moving Brown, but that's a possibility. So you look at the Raptors, guys, they can have up to 21 players in training camp this summer. They're currently at 20 with Quincy Guerriere on an Exhibit 10 deal and also Freeman Liberty, like I said, still on the books. So that does leave one spot open for the Raptors to fill this summer. Probably going to come around Summer League. But really, I mean, barring a major trade, the Raptors are done making moves. I don't see them bringing back Gary Trent Jr. And what remains to be seen is if a Bruce Brown trade is going to happen. Other than that, this is basically the Raptors roster and team going into this upcoming season. That's where things stand for the Raptors. And that's going to lead me into the Bruce Brown situation because I know a lot of Raptors fans want to see Brown gone, ideally for a first-round pick, but man, is it ever looking more and more likely? I know we still have a lot of weeks in front of us with this offseason. Things can change in a heartbeat. We know that in the NBA, but it is looking more and more likely that Bruce Brown could, in fact, still be on this roster by the time the season starts because we know the Raptors do not rush these deals. We learned that with OG and Siakam, and Bruce Brown could, in fact, be a hot trade commodity around the trade deadline if he can get that value up by playing well. And if a team at that time, contending team, feels like they are a Bruce Brown trade away from really making a run. Remember, Bruce Brown was a huge role player on the Denver Nuggets during their championship run. And it's crazy that this guy barely has a trade market, it seems, as of now. So, of course, going back to the Raptors picking up Bruce Brown's $23 million team option, if the Raptors had relinquished that, not bring back Gary Trent Jr., yeah, they would have had some money to play with, but clearly the Raptors didn't have a target that they really wanted in free agency. The Raptors, they had been trying to trade Brown. So we did get a recent update from Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports. He was on the Hello and Welcome podcast, and he did talk about Brown's market. And basically he said it's relatively quiet, but the Milwaukee Bucks seem to be interested. This is what Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports said, and I quote, Bruce definitely expects to be traded without a doubt. And there's teams I think we've known that we've reported that are still kind of looking at him. Like one team, Milwaukee, that definitely had them on their list. There was a thing possible, I believe, that could have been a sign and trade with Patrick Williams if he did not leave Chicago. Outside of that, it's been quiet. Now, Fisher did say there is an Eastern Conference team, but he didn't want to reveal it just because he didn't want to mislead people. But doesn't seem like there's a whole ton for Bruce Brown. And Bruce Brown, he took to his Instagram. Apparently he's excited. He's back in Toronto. He says he likes it here. So who knows at this point, really? I mean, you just look at Brown. It is tricky to move him and find a trading partner again because he is making that $23 million. So a team that trades for him has to match salaries. So that adds another little wrinkle in all of this. And there's been some teams that have been quiet that can maybe get aggressive, but it's been reported like a team like the Lakers, they aren't willing to surrender a first-round pick. That was Anthony Irwin who said that of Lakers Daily. So, yeah, I mean, there's not a whole ton, it seems, for Brown. And the longer this thing goes, the worse it is for his trade value. I think it was Josh Lewinberg who said that. Whenever there's a guy who other teams know that team is trying to trade, that in essence sinks his trade value because they know that team is desperate to get rid of him. So they're not going to be willing to give up the value to get him. And I think this is the situation now because teams have known that the Raptors have been trying to trade Brown since acquiring him. And this thing has lingered. It's kind of decreasing Brown's trade value. And we see it now. This is a one-time NBA champion, still a very useful role player, can help a championship contending roster, but how far are these teams willing to go to trade for Brown? And right now, it seems like not much. When you have a situation like they find themselves in now, where you have this guy you want to trade, the offers aren't to your liking, they're not forced to do something now. So Masai's going to wait. He's going to wait. He's going to hope things turn for the best. And many months from now, as we get closer to that trade deadline, maybe Bruce Brown's trade value can go back up because right now, it doesn't make sense just to get rid of Bruce for the sake of getting rid of Bruce. So he does slate in the Raptors rotation if Bruce Brown is still on the roster by the time the 2024-2025 season kicks off. The feeling was always it was going to be one or the other. It was very unlikely that the Raptors were going to let both go and have that cap flexibility just because there wasn't a guy they had their eye on, it seems, in this, free agency. So if they don't bring back Gary Trent Jr., you keep Brown, you have Olynyk, you still have some veterans that can kind of help these young guys blossom. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but you're hoping as a Raptors fan that the Raptors can eventually get a good deal for Brown later down the line. Because remember, this goes back to that Siakam deal. And if the Raptors aren't able to get much for Brown, it's just going to make that Siakam deal look even worse, which is looking worse and worse by the day. What do you think? Do you think a Bruce Brown trade is going to happen before the start of the season, or are you with me? Do you think Brown is going to still be on this team by the time next season starts? All right, guys, to conclude today's show, wanted to talk about this because it's pretty crazy right now what's unfolding with Sasha Vezenkov. Like, what's going on? What's the deal here? Is Sasha still on the Raptors? Is Sasha still going to be a part of the Raptors? Is he going back to Europe to play for Olympiacos? Like, what's the deal? There's been conflicting reports that have come out. There was a report today that came out that Sasha is in fact going back to Olympiacos, reported by Christos Harpadidis. Obviously, things have not been made official by the Toronto Raptors. As of right now, he is still on the Raptors roster, but kind of a weird saga. And like all the Olympiacos fans are going nuts on X saying, no, Sasha's ours. We want Sasha. As of right now, Sasha is still on the Raptors. I mean, the Raptors team account put out a welcome post for him the other day. But let's kind of step back here and look to, how this all started. So it was first reported by Christos Harpadidis that Vezenkov had decided to return to Europe by signing a multi-year deal with Olympiacos. This was on June 29th. But then Michael Grange at Sportsnet quickly shut down that report, saying that the Raptors control Vezenkov's rights and have no intention of waiving him, saying, so according to those in position to know, reports that Sasha Vezenkov is leaving NBA to play in Greece are not true. The former King has 1 year left on his NBA deal. Raptors control his rights and have no intention of waiving him and expect to have him in training camp. Carry on. So Grange, pretty confident, saying that Vezenkov is still with the Raptors. Of course, the Raptors acquired Vezenkov in that deal with the Sacramento Kings that sent Jalen McDaniels to the Kings for Vezenkov, Mitchell, a 2024 second-round pick, which Toronto then used to select Jamal Shead out of Houston, and a 2025 second-round pick from the Portland Trail Blazers. So that was then. This is now. Christos Herpedidis, again, puts out a report saying that Vezenkov has returned to Olympiacos. He accepted a multi-year deal. He can't go anywhere until the Raptors waive him or buy him out. So it's going to be interesting to see if his new report is in fact true, because then it would suggest that a buyout is coming and the Raptors could elect to, buy Vezenkov out, which could free up that full MOE or close to it. So then that, in essence, would kind of open the door to a potential Gary Trent Jr. return. But again, as of now, Vezenkov is still with the Raptors, and until there is an announcement that he is waived or he is bought out, either now or in the coming days or weeks, he's still with Toronto. So it's kind of weird what's going on. You got this battle going on of, Vezenkov still under contract, still with the Raptors, the team welcoming him in, people assuming he's going to be on the Raptors roster, he's going to be in the rotation, and then there's this other side, he's going back to Europe, he's not a Raptor, he's going to Olympiacos. So that's kind of created this whole just crazy situation of what is going on. Like, where is Vezenkov going to play next season? And until there is a finalized report, he is still with the Raptors until the team decides if they want to move on from him. I want Vezenkov. I think he would be a nice addition to the Raptors. I think, he would benefit from a change of scenery, playing under a guy like Darko, who's familiar with that European style. And I kind of slate Vezenkov in that rotation. I feel like he would be a nice bench piece, and he's a big who can space the floor and shoot. The Raptors need floor spacers, guys who can open up the floor and hit shots. So I think Vezenkov would actually be a very big, valuable asset to the Raptors bench. But of course, if these reports, this report in particular that just came out, is true and he is going back to Olympiacos, then we got to await the news that the Raptors are either going to waive him or buy him out. We'll see how this whole story plays out, because it seems like people are dead set that Vezenkov is going back to Europe. And I think from the Raptors' perspective, I mean, why wouldn't you want to, hold on to Vezenkov? Unless he really doesn't want to be here, he wants to go back to Europe, that's a different story. But the Raptors have his rights. I think there's some value there. Him coming on over here, being able to be one of those main guys from off the bench, playing alongside Davion Mitchell, who he's obviously familiar with, both of them coming on over from Sacramento. I think it would be a nice fit, but we'll see how this thing plays out. I mean, we need a finalized update. Raptors fans, do you want to see Vezenkov on the Raptors? Because there's so many people in Greece that want Vezenkov back with Olympiacos. So the hype is real. Vezenkov is a hot commodity right now. And with free agency quieting down, it looks like this is the biggest story right now of Vezenkov having these two sides. He's in the middle. And what's ultimately going to happen? Well, that remains to be seen. So just wanted to provide that update. But guys, let me know your thoughts. What do you think the Raptors are going to do from here on out? Do you think it's all over in terms of, them making any moves? Do you think a Bruce Brown trade is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen with Vezenkov? Let me know your full thoughts. Be sure to hit a like on the video, guys. That helps it a ton. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is it for me. This is Luca signing off. Summer League starts next week, so we're actually going to have some basketball to watch. That's going to be exciting. I'll just say this in closing. The Raptors Summer League roster looks very, very compelling and fun. So we're going to have a lot of fun talking about the Summer League games once that happens. So that's something we can all look forward to in about a week's time. That is it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It's Lucas signing off. Until next time, stay safe.